Well, hello, world.
Hi.
It's your absolute favorite horror movie podcast and all the known multiverses, Dead and Lovely, here with your best buds in all the land. Why, it's me, Uncle Ben.
Me, Hollywood Steve.
And I'm going to tell you guys what, last night we went and watched ourselves a brand new moving picture.
Yeah.
It had sound and color.
I didn't see the band, but there was a band there
There
playing
was music
sound.
playing.
Yeah.
Crazy music, too.
Crazy.
Some pretty wild stuff.
Wild.
I don't know how they pull it off, but by God, they sure did. I think this whole movie picture business just might catch on.
It might catch on.
It's a multi-sensory experience.
If they'll move out of that desert out there in Southern California, nobody's ever moving out there.
No chance. No chance. And we wanted to give you guys a little mini episode on it, as we like to do whenever there is a noteworthy horror picture that
This
hits
is of
the silver
note,
screen.
for sure.
Because we just went and saw Jordan Peele's new flick, Us.
Oos.
Which is, of course, his follow-up to Get Out, his directorial debut, which was absolutely phenomenal.
Yep,
we
great
did an
movie.
episode on that a little while back.
Yeah, last
February, I think it was, yeah. And it was, of course, just riddled with subtext and racial and social commentary and stuff.
Right.
We loved it. It was absolutely amazing. So going into this, I would say that I had very, very, very high hopes.
Me too.
Yeah. And yes, it's hard to avoid the dreaded sophomore slump.
That is true, yeah. Number 2 can't always be the best.
Exactly.
I mean, look at John Carpenter. He made Dark Star, and then how did he follow it up? Well, he followed up with Assault on Precinct 13. He nailed it.
He did pretty good on that one.
Yeah.
Weezer, though, they did, well, Pinkerton.
Pinkerton pretty much nailed it. Is anybody actually sophomore slumping?
Creed, that second Creed album.
It's true.
We all know that, right?
We all know that to be true.
And I'm going to tell you what, as we go into talking about this flick here, we're going to first break this thing off with a spoiler-free, just heads up of if you should see it or not.
Yep.
And then after that, we're going to give you guys a warning and just spoil the ever-living dog shit out of this thing.
So please pay attention. We don't want to spoil it for you because you should see it just
uninitiated.
No idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Because it's got some great tension, especially when you don't know what's happening.
And, as we talk about it, I don't just want to compare it to Get Out. It seems like a lot of people's reviews...
Yeah, well, there's no reason to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because it's easy to let those expectations flavor your view of a flick, where it's like, I loved Get Out, so I'm more likely to like this.
Right.
Or talk about how it's not as good as Get Out, so therefore it's not good. It's just lame to do it that way. I think everything has to be reviewed on a movie-by-movie basis.
Whenever, around the time that Get Out came out, Jordan Peele tweeted, Get Out is a documentary. Around the time that Us came out, Jordan Peele tweeted, Us is a horror movie. So, in Get Out, I get what he means by Get Out as a documentary. Like, you talk about the social commentary and stuff.
And it's not necessarily scary. Get Out isn't really going for scariness.
Right. Imagining yourself in that situation is frightening. But, it was going more for documenting social issues.
Yeah.
And so, just taking the subtext of what he means when he says that Us is a horror movie, we have to remember... We probably went into it thinking there would be a lot more social commentary than maybe he wanted to be in there.
Sure.
There is still a lot of social commentary.
And I'm glad that he did it that way, too, because especially as a guy that's kind of new to the horror genre,
right?
He could have... let's just use like M. Night Shyamalan for an example.
Right.
Where... it just became, okay, what's the twist going to be?
Right.
Going into every new movie,
Right. So if he makes it some very obvious sort of racial message, like Get Out has, though Get Out has much deeper subtext and stuff. If he gives us some obvious message, then it again becomes a documentary, becomes more social, political commentary. And he wanted a movie that would scare people. He said that in interviews that he wanted to make a horror movie. He wanted to make something that would scare people. And this does that.
Yeah.
Like the audience reaction watching it on a Thursday night. Everybody was into it.
There was so many, oh shit.
Yeah.
Don't.
in the
movie theater. It was good. It's definitely one that you want to watch among a bunch of people on like a crowded night. And there was some stuff in this movie that was very unnerving. Specifically, like the first probably 15 minutes of the movie, the first opening sequence that we get, the kind of flashback and stuff, just made me feel so weird. It made me feel extremely strange. It was like really quiet. A lot of the camera stuff was really still.
Yeah, a lot of darkness.
Unnerving.
Yeah, it leaves you worrying about what could be there. Yeah. And then when you do see what is there, it's even more alarming. Like instead of like a lot of horror movies building up tension and then it being undercut by some innocuous thing, in this case, it's like, no, it's scarier than you thought it was.
Right. Let's cover a few of the things that we can talk about that are non-spoilery. So let's just talk about some general stuff about the flick.
Right.
Like the cast of actors and stuff like that. It all centers around a family of 4. There's a few side characters and stuff. The Wilsons. But it's mainly just mom and dad and the 2 kids.
Right.
There's a couple of like friend characters and stuff. And this isn't really a spoiler because if you've watched a preview, you know there's like doppelgangers of everybody that show up.
The preview sets out the basic, and we won't get more in depth than this really.
Yeah.
The preview sets out that it's a family, and a family of doppelgangers shows up outside their house.
Yeah.
And then there's a line from the previews that I think is going to be one of those iconic horror movie lines, like "They're here and I see dead people."
Yeah.
Where the young son says, "There's a family in our driveway."
Yeah,
and
just
that
like
is
very
the
matter of
moment,
fact.
like in the preview, where it's like everything sets off. But that's actually the moment in the movie where everything sets off.
Yeah,
definitely. Because up to that point, it's just a setup, like a family that seems to be having, a normal family time. The dad makes dad jokes. The mom's a little worried about some stuff that happened in her past there. It's all normal up to that point. And then that's when things very quickly set off.
Yeah.
And it gets like things it'll remind you of probably like The Strangers or Funny Games, something like that.
Yeah, I think so. There's just a lot of like torment.
But there's so much more to it than that.
Yeah, definitely.
The preview makes you think that the movie is all that. And that's actually just I would say half an act, maybe.
Yeah, I know.
Is that part.
Right.
And there's so much more to it.
That is something that surprised me about it, is I really expected the whole movie just to be this family of doppelgangers tormenting the real family. By having that family of doppelgangers, it's really cool too, because every actor gets to play 2 roles.
Yes. Yeah, they're playing against themselves a lot of times. And Lupita Nyong'o does so great.
It's her movie, dude.
This is amazing. Her movie. And Jordan Peele said that she was very method when she was the doppelganger.
Oh, really?
And that she would use the voice.
Yeah.
You might. I don't know if they play it.
I don't know
in the trailer, but
I didn't hear it in the trailer.
The voice. You will know what I mean when you get to it. It is creepy.
So she was doing that like on set.
She was doing it the whole time. She stayed in character. Just that. The way she moves is different when she's the red character. Like she moves so
her
like
physicality
precisely
is much
and stuff.
different. Yeah. I would say really everybody's physicality.
Yes.
Is very different when they're their other
Winston
selves.
Duke, M'Baku from
I mean,
Black obviously
Panther.
Also Lupita Nyong'o was in Black Panther, but M'Baku from Black Panther plays just a dorky dad in this.
He's awesome,
and he's so good. It's like he's doing an impression of Jordan Peele, like the voice that he does and stuff. But that's actually more akin to his actual voice, which it threw me off when I saw him in interviews, because I expect him to be M'Baku with that like, deep voice. But he's got more of that Jordan Peele type of voice that he uses.
And he provides a lot of our comic relief and stuff too. There's some stuff in the movie that is genuinely hilarious.
But you have
really funny stuff.
You have to remember, even in spoiler free, since we're dealing with a family of doppelgangers, you got him light and carefree. But then on the other side, in that other family, it's M'Baku. It's it's the scary, big,
fearsome
guy. Yeah.
The kids do a great job too, man. And it's really easy. It's really easy for a kid to get a free pass at acting badly because they're a kid, you know? But no, the kids are both freaking awesome, man.
Very good.
The daughter is excellent. And again, her other self, the way she personifies it is really great.
She's so creepy.
Yeah.
I would say she equals the creepy level at times of Lupita Nyong'o. She doesn't get as many opportunities and doesn't get to go as far.
Yeah.
But like She's so creepy. Her name is Shahadi Wright Joseph. She's awesome. She's so good in this. Yeah.
Another thing about this movie that I think that we got to point out in the spoiler-free portion of this is how incredible the soundtrack is.
Oh man,
the soundtrack is freaking awesome.
There's
amazing,
a great scene with "Fuck the Police" that.
Oh yeah,
is just like it stuck out as pretty much perfect.
Yeah, the soundtrack is a mix of original stuff, which is done by the same guy that did Get Out, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. Yeah.
And the original music and stuff that they chose to put in the movie too was really fun.
Yeah,
I think maybe a little distracting at times.
Right.
Just maybe a little like too on the nose with some of the original music.
Okay.
Or sorry, the licensed music.
Right.
But all the original stuff was like amazing, completely amazing. Especially like during the intro. There's a slow pan out shot.
Oh,
and there's
man.
It's like a choir.
That music is
really haunting and weird.
It'll remind you of 70s horror type of opening.
Yeah, it kind of had like an Omen sort of feel to it.
Yeah,
which
there are
really
a lot
cool.
of homages in this. Like,
yeah, if you're a horror fan, you'll catch some.
You'll catch a whole bunch of them, but like it's still so unique, so different.
Cinematography's amazing.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah,
the acting
movie.
is good. The writing is great. Again, I mean, Jordan Peele, he's obviously awesome at this.
Yeah.
He's been writing for years. I mean, it wasn't all horror movies, but he's been writing since Mad TV. He did Key and Peele. He's had movies he's written. He's good at this.
Yeah, obviously.
I think it's well paced, and they're good action lulls that really get out a lot of the creepy stuff. There's a lot of exposition that sort of happens in the middle of the movie that teaches us what's going on, like why this is sort of happening, but even then it's still not entirely clear. But it works because the action, it's interspersed really well with the action, and there is a good bit of action in this movie.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
The movie changes tones, I think, very many times throughout the course of its run.
Yeah, the tonal shifts, I liked them.
Yeah,
you didn't seem to be too keen on them last night.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where I get what he was going for, some of it, but some of it just felt like I was watching and I was like, oh, it's this kind of movie. Oh, wait, no, now it's this kind of movie. Oh, it changed its mind. It's going to be this now. No, it's not that anymore. And that can be cool when it's done well, but in this, it felt a little herky-jerky.
I'll talk more about why I think it is like that when we start getting into spoilers, but I think it worked. But I see what you're saying. It does do that for sure. It's exactly as you're saying it is. But
this movie, to me, it isn't perfect, and I can't really say too much about why not without giving too much away. But I will say, at the end of our spoiler-free portion here, it's worth seeing.
Yeah, go see it.
Yeah, go see it.
You're gonna like it. I think it's really worth seeing in the theater with a big crowd. That was fun.
And I want these studios and stuff to see dollar papers showing up and being like, people went and saw his movie. Jordan, make more movies.
Yeah, no reason for us to remake some movie from the 80s when we can just pay somebody to make a new...
Or remake The Grudge again.
What
the hell?
I don't know why that's happening.
Yeah, every dollar we spend, folks, is a reminder that you want them to keep doing something. Every dollar is a vote. I vote that we let Jordan make more movies, so go throw some money at this thing. It's definitely worth watching.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the figures, but it does seem from just articles, just from what's already happened, that ticket sales are pretty high already.
I've seen a lot of Facebook posts and stuff today of people who have already seen it.
On opening night. One of our Dead and Lovely listeners has seen it twice already. So
that's intense.
And
it does warrant a second viewing.
It does. Yes, that's the one thing that, like, even we're about to get more in depth into it, but it still won't be that in depth because you need to see this movie 2 times, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And from here on out, while we're talking about story and meaning and stuff like that, I think it's worth saying, disclaimer, we've only seen it one time,
and there's so much like symbolism and meaning.
Well, I know that after I watched Get Out for the second time, it was just like, oh man, completely see a different thing here. So I think that this one will probably be the same way too. So this is just going off the cuff, first impressions, only seen it once less than a day ago. So if we miss some things or misinterpret some things, cut us some freaking slack.
Right.
We'll give you a refund on what you spent to listen to this.
All right, now. Woo, woo, woo.
Spoilers ahead. Let's get in a little bit deeper on this thing and spoil it up.
Yeah.
And, again, if you're still here and you haven't seen the movie yet, do stop listening. This movie will be better if it's a surprise to you, because it has some surprises.
Better. Yeah. There's some good surprises. So, one of the main themes of this movie is abjection.
Abjection.
Now, abjection,
as defined by Webster's dictionary.
No, we're not going to do that. But I'll let Lupita Nyong'o kind of explain it. This is a quote from her, where she doesn't use the word abjection, but this is pretty much the definition of abjection.
Okay.
She says the darkness in us is something we project onto an other that we create.
Okay.
And that's a central theme of this movie, is that there are these people called the Tethered.
The Tethered.
Who are
doppelgangers.
Doppelgangers, but essentially the opposite of the person in real life.
Right.
So for these people who are just this nice middle-class family on vacation, that means they're terrible. The Tethered are horrendous people.
Yeah.
And so you get this guy like Winston Duke plays the dad, who's this mild-mannered, dad jokey, just
happy,
fun,
funny,
happy dude. And then the Tethered version of him is this bestial, just 100%
hulking, skulking. Yeah, really scary.
A really scary type of dude.
They went to a lot of lengths to do those opposites. I was thinking about more of those today, where it's like the character that what's her name? Peggy from Mad Men.
Oh yeah, Elizabeth Olsen. Elizabeth Moss.
There we go.
Yeah, she plays Kitty.
So, they reference early on in the movie that she just had like a facelift done.
Right.
And then like her other self loves like cutting her face with scissors.
Yes.
And stuff like that. Like the son, Jason.
Right.
Like he has this scary mask. Another boy
also has a mask,
but it's to cover up the fact that his face is monstrous.
Actual face is monstrous. Yeah. So basically, the Tethered aren't fully explained. I'll get more into abjection here in a bit, but I want the Tethered bit to be kind of clear.
Yeah.
Basically, what we see is that the older they are, the more unlike the Tethered they actually are. So with the young boy, he's actually still pretty similar to the other young boy. They're both kind of wild and crazy, etc. They got a whole bunch of energy. It's interesting because their actions seem to have reactions with the Tethered.
Yeah.
So we see that with the mom, with Lupita Nyong'o, when she is fighting Red, her Tethered version, that they basically know what each other are going to do.
Right.
We see it with the kid in the movie. He is able to kill his Tethered because he finds out that his Tethered will mirror anything he does.
Right.
Because they are so actually similar that there's no reaction. His actions are the reaction. So like they just do the exact thing but the opposite way.
Yeah.
And so he's able to kill by using that knowledge to his advantage. But it also makes it real hard for the older ones because they're so separated, so different. The reason for this is abjection. This is something psychologically that has been explained by some psychoanalytic thinkers like Freud and Jacques Lacan, but also talked about by people like Julia Kristeva and other feminist critics, where what we do when we're creating ourselves, like in our own minds, is we create ourselves in the image of what we think is our best persona.
Okay.
But we also, while doing that, we have this duality inside of us. They're the things we're repressing. By trying to be this person outwardly, we're also trying to repress certain desires.
The opposites of those things.
Yeah, the opposites of those things. Yeah. And so, in this case, what Jordan Peele has done, is that he's taken that idea and made that repressed, that abject, which is actually tends to be called monstrous. So that monster, he's made it an actual physical form.
Okay. Yeah.
So as we age, as we grow, we learn to repress more and more and make more of an outward show of who it is we want to be. and try more and more to cover up who it is we don't want to be.
Gotcha.
So with the Tethered, the older they are, the less connected they are.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
I hadn't really considered it that way. Yeah, but it does seem like the older ones are more set like that.
Yeah. And so the Objection, the theory behind it seems all pretty well in place in here, but what he does is he takes it into the realms where people have looked at Objection in regards to race and in regards to sex and things like that. And what he's I think bringing out is that we, in this era where we're now reassessing how racist our country is and how sexist our country is and things like that, in this era we have repressed the idea that those things are a part of who we are as a country.
Okay.
And so the election of Trump reawakened to us the knowledge that there are our doppelgangers. They're the people who don't have the same beliefs as us. They have the exact opposite, in fact.
Sure.
And that racism didn't go anywhere and sexism didn't go anywhere. We've just been repressing it this whole time.
Yeah.
And so in some ways the Tethered are sort of supposed to be, I think, Trump supporters, which is kind of supported by the fact that they wear red.
Right.
And there is a very specific line where they say, "We are Americans," which seemed too on the nose at the moment, but the more I thought about it, I realized the Tethered version actually didn't have the knowledge of everything that's going on up on the surface. And just sort of understood that, like, being an American was being somebody up in the world above ground.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, by coming to replace them, they're saying we are Americans, which, is something that we hear a lot from Trump supporters and people like that they are the real Americans. Like, they're the ones, that's real America.
Yeah.
And we're all, in our little bubbles. We don't understand what real America is.
I mean, as far as I know, it's Hulk Hogan. He's a real American.
Yep. Drink your milk.
Fight for the rights of every man.
Say your prayers. Eat your vitamins.
Yeah.
Boom. Brother. But yeah, so that's why I think the Tethered is in some way like talking about the more recent election, but also in other ways just talking about how we in general have done that forever. We've always thought, oh, we're so progressive now. We've left behind those things of the past and we've progressed. But by doing that, what we're doing is ignoring the fact that those things are still there and we haven't defeated them. We haven't made them go away. We've just pushed them into the darkness.
Well, and maybe to those things that you're talking about, they're probably very angry because they feel as though everybody has left them behind.
Exactly. They feel like they are not a part of the world. And so that's what the Tethered, that's in this movie, the Tethered, of course, are rising up, taking over. And so, they feel like...
Also literally dividing the country.
Literally dividing the country.
Yeah, the hands across America.
Literally.
Yeah.
That is real... I mean, like, there was some... I said there's less, like, hidden political subtext in here than Get Out, but it's still there.
It's still there's
still a good bit there.
And I think that everything that you're saying makes sense even whenever you look at even the title of the movie. I think the title of the movie being called Us, there's actually a lot to that. For one, Us, it's spelled U.S. as in like United States.
United States.
So there's that. That's pretty on the nose. But I was reading an interview with Jordan Peele. He was on like NPR Fresh Air earlier today. You can find it on their site and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like an 8-minute interview or something like that.
Yeah.
But he was talking about, by definition, just the concept of us means that there's also them.
Them.
Another. Everybody who isn't us. And in society today, we tend to be so much more divided into camps of us and them.
Right.
In 800 million different ways. Whether you're talking about, I mean, obviously the red versus blue political fight is more vicious now than it's ever been. We are easily more divided than we've ever been as a country.
Well, Civil War.
Okay, yeah. In recent history.
Yeah.
That tops it a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like by saying us, that means that there's also a them, which is to say everybody that isn't us. And I think a lot of this movie, you could look at the difference between the above grounders and the Tethereds as being any number of different things. You could say that it's Democrat and Republican.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought about earlier today is there's actually a lot of red and blue in the movie.
Yes, there is.
Earlier on in the movie, when they're sitting on the beach, that red frisbee lands right on that blue dot on blanket.
It just covers up that dot. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you think about it, the above ground family mostly wears blue.
That's true.
Throughout the movie. They're mostly all wearing shades of blue. And of course, the opposition is all decked out in red.
Yes.
So I think that's very on the nose politically to say. But this could also be about the divisions between rich and poor. I think that this is basically about any disenfranchised people.
That is true.
And you could honestly put either of them on either side of the fence here. And so with it in mind that this movie, I think, could be commentating on, again, the haves and the have-nots in any scenario. Again, obviously with the above ground people being the haves and the Tethereds being the have-nots. Mm-hmm. I think what it's also sending out is a very clear message to be considerate and respectful of whoever's on the other side. Like, if you're one of the haves, you should still be considerate and respectful of the have-nots. If you're on the blue team, you should be respectful of the red team. Because what we see is that all that it takes is for a leader with even literally barely any voice at all to unite the disenfranchised people to come and destroy absolutely everything.
Yeah.
You know, once they have somebody in place telling them, hey guys, we need to fight this and rise up. Again, just as we were seeing with Trump and a lot of people that support him and stuff, just the minute you give those people a voice, it's over for the rest of us.
Right.
You know? And it's because they were so marginalized and pushed to the side.
Exactly.
You know? So I think that, and again, you could look at that as rich and poor. You could look at that as black and white.
It's true.
Whatever. You know?
Yeah, I mean, the movie is all about dualities, and you know, even there are a ton of shots in mirrors or of people looking in mirrors and things,
which is like
that.
Very Shining-esque, isn't it? What do you think about the use of the mirrors and stuff in here?
I mean, in the opening, she goes into a hall of mirrors, and
it's like a spirit quest.
Yeah, it plays so effectively because, you know, we're seeing her in the mirrors and she's getting a little worried and afraid that she can't get out. But then she sees the back of her own head.
Yeah.
And it was just like an electric moment of what the fuck is that? That's not how mirrors work.
You're not supposed to see the back of your head. Yeah. Nobody's supposed to see the back of their own head. That scene, man, just that entire intro sequence, I swear I was like fucking sweaty hands, hair standing up on my arms, just unnerved because I was like, what's about to happen?
Yeah.
It feels bad, whatever's about to happen.
It felt real bad, and it got real bad. Now, we were saying in the non-spoiler part that you should see this movie the second time, and that the reason is because what we find out is that the tethered version of Lupita's character, which is Adelaide, as a child was replaced by the tethered version of her.
Yeah.
So the one we're seeing now in all red that has the messed up voice, that is the real person from the surface.
Yeah.
So it does say something about power dynamics where when she was the person above the surface, she recognized how much power that she had in the real world to affect real world change. But because those people that were, you know, underground, they had no way of knowing they could do anything in the world. They were so isolated in just these small tunnels.
Yeah.
And they had, like, that was all they know.
Right.
So they didn't see that there was more to the world. So her getting then replaced and stuck down there, she had the vision. She knew that no, there's more to the world than just this.
Yeah.
And that's how she was able to get them all together. And I wonder what that kind of says, that like you said, like how little it actually took.
Right.
To get them to rise up.
Yeah. Something interesting about the mirrors and stuff you pointed out too is that it seemed like in the underground there weren't any mirrors.
Yeah, I don't think there were.
I don't think there were either.
This is a big point for me, is that if they were living underground, never seeing their own reflection, this is in theories about abjection, specifically Jacques Lacan's work on the mirror stage, we enter into the mirror stage of development when we see ourselves in a mirror, when we recognize that we're not just the thing behind our eyes,
right?
But we're like a physical form in the world that other people see.
Yeah, and this is what other people are seeing,
right? And that makes us think about how other people see us, and then we begin the projecting,
right?
And so the people that live in the tunnels, if we're right, I'm pretty sure there were no mirrors in the tunnels.
Sure. Yeah,
they never see themselves.
Right.
They had no concept of themselves outside of themselves.
Yeah.
And so that's why when we see them, they can be ridiculous and having fun in the same way that people up on the surface are having fun, but having just sort of opposite reactions to all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't recognize that they are something individual, so they don't feel like they can break out of the mold of just being the tethered, being the opposite of what's happening up on the surface.
Well, that's something too that is worth mentioning. And as far as you're talking about, them seeing themselves for the first time, I think that could say something very much about representation, where there's a lot of people that don't feel represented,
right,
in movies, in politics, in business, or whatever. So it's this real thrill to see themselves being represented. I think that's part of it too. Now, something that's worth pointing out too, that at first kind of seemed like a big flaw in the movie to me, but then it's like after you start thinking about it, it's like, okay, this could be very allegorical in a lot of ways.
Uh-huh.
Seems like all those people down in the tunnels could have just took that escalator and left.
Yes, they could have.
Like it was very explicit about showing us nobody was guarding it. There weren't like guys with machine guns at the door. The doors weren't even locked. But I think that's to say that these conditions that you're born in, you just believe you can't escape them.
Yeah, there's no outlook. There's no perspective. I think that it's also interesting that, like, if they had gone up the escalator, the place they would come out would be a hall of mirrors.
Right.
They would immediately be confronted with themselves outside themselves.
Yeah, I thought
like that might even be what keeps them down there.
Yeah,
there's the fear of that.
And I think it is also necessary to view this movie as allegory in so many ways, because if you don't, you start realizing that there are just gigantic plot holes and things that just wouldn't make sense, that would just fall apart. I mean, even going back to the jumpsuits, it's like, how did this legion of voiceless, nonverbal,
where did they get the cloth
with no money? Like, where did that stuff come from?
Yeah,
how did they?
They all have gold scissors. Yeah,
where did those come from?
Yeah, those are
also too. It's like, if you're telling me you spend like 30 years planning this uprising, and you have a bunch of people jump up on the surface that can't even talk, they just holler and make noises at each other, and they're running around and apparently successfully kill everyone with scissors. Like, you're telling me that, like, against Chinook helicopters and drone strikes and armed military personnel, that would work? Well, I mean, that's very silly. But again, it's all allegorical.
It's in some ways like Night of the Living Dead, where in the opening we get the concept that you don't want to kill a human being. Like, that's the truth about all of us.
Yeah.
When you add in the layer that the human being that's trying to kill you looks exactly like you, it would make it harder to kill them.
Right.
Like, you'd be like, I want an explanation of this. So I can see why they would have the upper hand for a while. And all we see is that first couple days.
Yeah.
We don't see... Because, I think pretty quickly... Because we see at the end, the final shots are... like the helicopter showing up, sort of, I guess, filming this Hands Across America thing. So, we don't see the reaction the world's going to have, but I assume, as soon as the helicopters come in.
They're done. They're
as soon as somebody comes in with guns,
Yeah, exactly. Which, I think was also kind of intentional that they kept this gun-free. They made this entirely gun-free. There's, like, no fire. There's a flare gun in one of the boat scenes. Which, by the way, the boat scenes... 10 out of 10.
Yeah, Tim Heidecker is in this movie.
And I didn't recognize him. It was all like when we got home, I was like, who was that guy? Oh, it's fucking Tim.
He's doing a little bit of comedy, but it's mostly serious. And it's like, that specific moment is funny. and creepy because Tim Heidecker is being real fucking creepy.
Yeah, and when there's the smoke and the red, like glare and stuff, and he's like skulking at him and everything. It's cool.
It's cool.
It's really cool. There's other problems too. I mean, it just seems like, okay, after we find out that red suit mom is real mom,
right?
Upper world mom is fake mom. It just seems like red suit mom at any point would have been like, you fools, we switched, I'm the real one. Like at any fucking point.
Right.
Why wouldn't she just let that cat
she was
out of the bag?
I mean, she was a child. Yeah. Like, she's not... Like, after the point that she is stuck down there, chained to a bed, by the way. That might have something to do with it. The fact that she was chained to the bed. At that age, I didn't know my address. Like, I didn't know my phone number. I would have just... Like, what would she do once if she did get herself unchained from the bed? What would she do? And then after that point, her development is all within that world. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's why it's interesting to me that, like, her memory of the world on the surface slowly erodes, but all she has is that shirt is the connection. Mm-hmm. And so that's the world she kind of reflects back on.
Like, I guess so.
The world that she sees in that shirt. Mm-hmm. And then she also has just like the issue of her throat. Her throat apparently got crushed. I mean, we see her get choked by the tethered version of herself. So I'm assuming that her hyoid bone was broken, came back weird, and that's why she has the weird voice.
Yeah.
But like, her comprehension of the world above would be the comprehension of like an 8-year-old or 10-year-old girl, whatever she was at that age.
I suppose there weren't really books or anything.
Right.
There,
I mean, it's essentially putting a child in solitary confinement at that point because nobody can talk down there.
Sure. Like you'd come out an animal.
Yeah, you would. And she does. She comes out insane.
Let's talk about that voice a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I'm in the minority here because it seems like everybody else has just been like, oh my God, the way that she talked was so chilling and unnerving and stuff. I didn't like the voice.
I liked it. It was a big risk. It was a big risk.
It was.
Take. Yeah.
But, I guess the thing about it, initially I was like, when we were talking about it at the bar, I was like, why was her voice all fucked up?
Right.
And you're like, oh, because she got her throat crushed. And I was like, oh, okay. But even at that, it's like, I don't think her voice sounded like somebody whose voice box and stuff was damaged. It sounded like somebody doing a voice to me. Does that make sense?
Well, this is knowledge that maybe will change the way you look at it. She actually did do research on people with voice box issues.
Well, shit.
And worked with her ENT doctor and her voice coach to get it exactly the way it would sound.
Well, fuck me, I guess.
It sounds like a voice, but that's exactly how it would be in real life. If you heard somebody doing that, you'd be like, why is he doing that voice? That's weird.
Yeah. And they'd be like, my voice is fucked up.
That's how my voice sounds.
It'd be like me at your wedding when I had laryngitis. And you're like, you can quit with the fake voicing now. And I wrote on my paper, I really have laryngitis. So nice you guys let me do that all day.
Yeah, whatever.
It's like, he's having his fun. Another thing that I would say is kind of minor complaints about this movie to me is later on we're down in the tunnels, we've got real mom, tethered mom,
right,
and red suit mom. It's hard, it'll get confusing if I say tethered mom because she's not. Red suit mom has her big supervillain monologue,
right, where she explains,
tells the whole history, which basically informs us that they're the remnants of a government experiment to control people
through their tethered. Yeah. It basically putting one soul into two bodies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they thought they would be able to control the population better. Yeah.
But then they abandoned the program because it didn't work.
Yeah, exactly. To me, the movie would have been better without that explanation. I think it's just almost like too much information.
Yeah.
I would have just been okay with just like, there's a legion of other people among us living in these tunnels. And I've been like, cool, that's fine. That's enough for me. Because also when you say, oh, the government did it, then you're like, and then what? They just abandoned it? They just walked away and just left all these people down there?
It's not out of the ordinary for our government to abandon a program and fuck the people who are involved in it.
No doubt.
Yeah.
But, I've been saying for a long time that I think that the way that things, again, politically right now are so rapidly, you are either pure blue or pure red.
Right.
that is a control experiment.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely a control experiment because
I don't need to go all fucking conspiracy theory,
right? Because you're not like either you're paying attention to every fuck up they have, or you're accepting every fuck up you have because it's go team.
Right, exactly right. And it's just easier to manage an entire population of people if you can put them into one of two boxes.
It is.
If there's in-betweens and shades, that gets kind of sticky.
It sure does.
But if you can just divide everything into this or that, it suddenly becomes very easy to manage, especially if you make them enemies.
Yes.
Because then you get the pack mentality of one or both.
And if you start talking about your followers taking up arms, President Trump, when he did that.
Oh God!
Remember how he's done that several times, and then people are like, "Yeah, it's not what he meant." Anyway, let's not turn this just Jordan Peele movie into a political rant,
right? But you know what I'm saying? Like them saying it's a government experiment. Yeah, I just think it's too much backstory.
Yeah. He had a lot more mythology to it, and maybe with a sequel, or not a sequel, maybe something more like within the universe, like because he did say, and he didn't confirm or deny whether Get Out and this are in the same universe, but it seems like it's a possibility.
I've read some stuff that was like, the Get Out body switch thing
that all is similar.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they figured out the clone thing didn't work, but they figured out, maybe we can do this.
Yeah. So they're both obviously involved in the technology of extracting someone's soul, or someone's spirit, and putting it into a different vessel. Or
I wouldn't hate if it turned out that we found out like the same scientist or whatever was behind both.
That'd be cool. I would love that. I'd love if his next movie was a sci-fi movie where we found out the history of that or something like. That'd be very interesting. A sci-fi horror movie about that. That'd be cool.
Anything you disliked about the movie? I know I kind of ranted a bit about stuff I didn't like about it. I still like the movie a lot.
I don't know that there was anything in particular that I disliked. I was not clear at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
It took some research to get to a point where I felt like I understood it more.
Yeah,
it would take another viewing to really get it. So I guess if my complaint would be initially the first half of the movie seems like a great horror movie, and the second half of the movie seems like you're treading water in just like the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, where the fuck am I here? What's going on? It's demanding of the viewer.
It's demanding of the viewer. But I love that. I love that a good bit. So I'm not saying it's a terrible thing, but I can see why somebody might
here's the thing,
turned off by it.
And if we want to just compare it directly back to like Get Out again, which again I don't want to do much, but like the first time you watch Get Out, it's over and you're like, what was that about, Steve? And you're like, definitely about racism.
Right.
And then you watch it more and you're like, oh man, I see so much more. Yeah, it's about racism and blah, 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 blah. With this movie, it was like, what was it about? And I'm like, not sure
of what this is about. Yeah.
And then after doing a lot of digging, I'm like, okay, it's about voiceless people and disenfranchised people and all this kind of stuff. But it's like clear cut. I didn't really have much of a clue after the movie was over. You know, it really explores a lot of really interesting stuff, and I can't wait to see it a second time. That's the thing is like last night after I watched it, wasn't that thrilled. Yeah. But now after thinking about it today, I'm like, I really look forward to seeing it again.
Yeah, I think now closing it out, it's hard to give this like a score. Yeah. What I would just say is go watch it.
Go watch it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I need to see it again. I need to look more into it. For me right now, though, it's definitely a watch, and it's very much enjoyable. Yeah. And will definitely make you squirm a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I had an interesting reaction after I watched it last night, where it's like after the movie was over and the credits were rolling. Again, I wasn't initially like, I loved it. I was kind of sitting there in my seat like, But at the same time, I was like, he's an excellent filmmaker. Right. Like in my head, I was like, damn, that guy knows how to make a movie.
Yeah, he does.
Even if I didn't really like it that much.
Sure.
It's like, I'm still like, that guy is fucking talented. He's great at making flicks. But like I said, as I've thought about it more today, I've kind of come around to a lot of things. And even like I said, a lot of those little holes and stuff that I'm talking about are explained if you're looking at this as allegorical. If you're looking at this as a literal logical movie, There's fucking clones in it. A family's living in tunnels.
It's true.
That doesn't work if you're trying to look at this logically.
And they're all living on rabbit, apparently, which is impossible.
That's impossible. Yeah, rabbit starvation is the thing. Look it up. You can't just eat rabbits all the time. So definitely worth seeing for sure.
Yeah, go check it out.
I enjoyed it. Well, you guys let us know what you think about it in the comments section here. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening to this on your podcast app of choice, be sure to rate and review. Takes us a long time making this show. It just takes you a second to do some reviewing. So please drop us some reviews on iTunes or wherever you listen to shows. And now, where can they follow us on them interwebs?
At Dead Lovely Pod on Instagram and Twitter. We have a Facebook group, Dead and Lovely Horror Movie, blah, blah, blah. You can email us at deadandlovelypod@gmail.com.
We receive smoke signals, telepathic messages.
Oh, yeah, telepathic messages. I just got that app.
Yeah, carrier pigeons.
Oh, yeah.
Hogwarts School Owls. We've gotten a few of those. Yeah, couple, 2, 3.
Mike Tyson should be the American Hogwarts. Ilvermorny. He should be the keeper. They should have pigeons instead of owls, and he should be the keeper of the pigeon.
Really?
Well, because he loves pigeons.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
Mike
Tyson, in his gigantic mansion, keeps pigeons. He used to keep them on the roof of his building in New York. Yeah.
That's wild. He should hang out with the pigeon lady from Home Alone 2. They'd be like so tight.
I bet they do hang out. And the Tuppence lady from Mary Poppins.
Oh my God. They all hold hands and sing Ebony and Ivory. It's a beautiful thing.
Ebony and Ivory and Ivory.
And Ivory. Yeah. Ivory and Ebony and Ivory. Sounds very like Irish when you do it that way.
Ivory and Ebony and Ivory. It wasn't very Irish.
It was pretty good. It's pretty good. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to stay tuned for another brand new episode coming at you here real soon.
Yeah.
I've been Ben.
I've been Steve.
You guys have been Dead and Lovely. Bye-bye.